Mr. Smotty, is your camera hot? Mike's ready?
Yes, sir.
There we go. All right, take it away, sir.
All right. Pleasure meeting everybody today. My name is Rakan Smadi. I'm part of the services team. My title is Workforce Solutions Principal. What that really means that I'm part of the services, focus on the client services in specific. I actually been with Dell for over 27 years. I'm based around Rock, Texas. I came from factory engineering where I used to engineer much of these deployment solutions myself into the factory processes. With that said, and if I may take control of the slides, okay. Yeah. So with that said, trying to progress the slide now. With that said, we're having these deployment conversations day in, day out with our customers. So a lot of our customers are, I mean, you've seen the roadmap discussion around the hardware. You've heard the Windows 11 conversations. A lot of our customers are actually struggling with the fact, how do we actually get these devices to Windows 11, especially now with the end of life or end of support of Windows 11 is coming up. With that said, we do offer the professional services where we would actually come in and accelerate that approach for you. We would actually have consultant services, would come in, would review your Azure environment, your Intune environment, we would configure it, optimize it based on best practices of what you have seen with thousands of other customers. As we do so, most of our customers are not able to make use of what actually had arrived on the box from the factory. The first thing that they actually end up doing as they receive these systems, they end up having to wipe and reload every single system. And that might be for a couple of reasons at least. One, they may not be on the latest and greatest of that the factory is on. Let's say they might be already on Windows 11, but they're not on 24H2. They are on 23H2. And now they're receiving systems with 24H2, which kind of forces them to have to wipe and reload these systems. Or maybe the factory moves to 25H2 or Windows 12 once released, and now they're not ready for that. So again, they would actually have to wipe and reload. And because of that, with the registration with the autopilot, as you may have experimented yourself, um, a big part of it is you would actually have to run a Microsoft PowerShell script on every single system to harvest what's called a hardware hash ID and collect that information, export it to a workbook, then import it into your tenant. We can just easily do that for you. We just collect some basic information, your tenant ID, your domain ID, and we send you a link with a consent for us to do that on your behalf. And now we start uploading the device registration on your behalf. So we make that whole journey a whole lot easier. Now, to optimize that experience, once again, we don't want you to have to wipe and reload every single system. We want you to take advantage of what actually had arrived from Dell. We can actually provide you with a clean base operating system and drivers. It's called Ready Image, and that literally is a bloatware-free image. Essentially, it doesn't have any trialware or bloatware or value-added software or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have any of that. And you get to control what version of the operating system that we're shipping, regardless of what the factory standard is. If you want 23H2, no problem. We'll continue to do that until you tell us otherwise. With that said, if for a lot of customers, they're seeing the value of actually getting that clean OS and drivers, but sometimes they might be concerned, that they're end of mind to drop ship a device to an end user at home, and as part of that experience, now these systems would ship to an end user at home possibly, and the actual provisioning, the handshake with Intune and pushing all the applications and settings would actually happen at the end user location. So some of our customers have asked if Dell can take that on, and we can absolutely do that. And that's called pre-provisioning. We call it connected pre-provisioning. So what that means, basically, we're doing the registration with the autopilot, we're doing the enrollment with Intune, and we are pre-provisioning these systems with all the applications and settings that you have pre-configured in your Intune environment live, right? So if that means that you may actually have different personas or different departments with their own subset of applications, and you've created a concept called group tags in Intune, we can provision down to that department level or down to that persona level. I know the pro support was covered earlier, so I'm not going to touch much on that. The self-healing image recovery. What that mean? Think of break fix scenarios where you may actually have to re-image a system. You can actually literally think of one of your users, possibly a remote user. The hard drive is defective. It was replaced with a blank hard drive. Normally, the customer process, they would have to overnight that system to their central IT. You do a bunch of work there, then you overnight that back to them. At best, that's 3 to 5 business days. And that's downtime on the end user productivity, the logistics costs, and everything involved. With the self-healing image recovery entitlement that you get with the ready image, you're able to literally re-image that system with a blank hard drive from the Dell Cloud, and now you actually have a healthy operating system and drivers that Intune can see it, and now you're able to provision that system with Intune. So you're able to get that user up and running the very same day. Now the we're trying to solution for cradle to grave. From the time that you're planning that refresh to the time that you're ready to dispose of those of these devices that you actually have in your environment. And that's where we offer the asset recovery services. So we can asset recover, any vendor. Doesn't have to be Dell. It can be Max, it can be other OEMs and so forth. We can actually assess if there is any residual value in these devices, and if there is, we can actually issue basically a credit to you that you can use against some future services. If there is a need, which I know many customers sometimes they're struggling with the device refresh, and they're asking Dell to take that on as well, whether it's streamlining the planning, the initial communication, or the end user scheduling, or whatever that is. We actually also offer the services around that as well as part of that device refresh management. And last but not least, the Lifecycle Hub, which was the title of my own presentation. So as I personally think of the Dell services, I think of it at least as of twofold. One fold is being the initial deployment. How do you actually deploy a device with all the software, all the settings that you need to a user? The second fold is for devices that are in production. If somebody is leaving the company, for example, and you want to collect that device, and that's a pain point to many of our customers, how do I actually collect that device back? How do we reassess the life cycle of that device, and if there is any good residual value in that device that possibly need to be repurposed, not necessarily for new hire. You may want to offer the new hire shiny new device, but maybe as a loaner device, or maybe as for contractors, or maybe for device exchange and so forth. So we can actually, with that's the second fold, which is repurposing device, and that's what we call reverse logistics. So again, we have forward logistics, deploying the device to your users, and we have reverse logistics, where if somebody is leaving the company or somebody is changing role from maybe engineering, they had a precision desktop, to marketing, now they need a latitude, we can collect that legacy device that they have, clean that up, refurbish it, and put it back on the shelf, and make it readily available to be used for the next user. Now, any of the services that we offer can be purchased a la carte. These are all fee-based services. Normally, they're per box fees, but as part of the PCS service experience, a lot of customers are looking, okay, so we don't want just to lease the hardware. Can Dell actually include these deployment services whether it's these factory services along with the pro support services and the asset recovery services with whatever term that they want, whether it's 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. Sweet spots seem to be 3 years. But with that said, you would actually arrive to one price per seat per month, essentially, one predictable price per seat per month. That includes the hardware, includes the software if needed, includes the deployment services, includes the pro support and the asset recovery services into that one price. So that's our definition for PCS service. Now, with PCS service, what's actually in this color, whatever that you may actually call it, red or magenta or whatever that is. These are the factory services. These are what I called the native services that we normally include as part of a PCS service conversation. So the procurement of that device, the applying maybe a sticker or an asset tag to that system. A customer may have specific BIOS settings that they're having to toggle on every single system, maybe wake on LAN, or maybe setting a password on the system BIOS. It does require setting up that desktop with a monitor, keyboard, and mouse just for the sake of just toggling that one BIOS setting. We can just easily capture your requirements. And as we are building these systems, we can actually toggle all these requirements for you. Apply that sticker or that asset tag to that system in the factory with whether it's colored, you have your own asset ID, we can increment that, burn it to the system BIOS if needed, and ship it to the end destination, right? So these are the red ones are the core components of a PCS service as service from service perspective. The Lifecycle Hub, which I'm double clicking on, basically it supports these use case scenarios that I've mentioned earlier. Whether you actually have a junior, a new hire, you may not have the leverage. Okay, so today is Wednesday, you have new hire on Monday. You cannot wait for Dell to build a system and Dell factory, ship it, provision it. It could take maybe 7 days or 10 days or however long. You want just more of a just-in-time kind of deployment. With the Lifecycle Hub, these systems are pre-built, readily available, right? And as soon as you put in the request for that new hire, we would just provision it for their persona, and we would actually ship it and kit it with maybe dual monitor, peripherals, whatever that is. We would actually ship it to that destination. It would support the lever, which is if somebody is leaving the company, as I've mentioned earlier. It would support refresh, right? So I mean, if you're doing a device refresh and so forth, we're able to handle that with similar processes from the Lifecycle Hub. It would support break fix scenarios. Somebody's screen is shattered. Instead of having to wait for repair and all that, you can actually, we can just send a replacement one basically and take the broken system. As long as it's under warranty, we would actually repair it in our Lifecycle Hub, and we put it back on the shelf, readily available for the next user. And the same thing for an advanced exchange. So as you can see, it's a very comprehensive set of services that we're able to offer. So not just focus on the initial deployment, but we are focused on the deployment and the management of these devices throughout the life cycle of that device. This is kind of different representation of the same thing, whether it's a new hire or somebody changing roles or an accident of sort. Again, the whole process starts with just placing bulk orders that we would actually put it in our warehouse, and in there, as one of these requests would come in, we would intake that in, we would fulfill that request, provision it again based on the persona, kit it with, we've seen customers sometimes add maybe a mug or a welcome letter or a polo shirt of sort, and add into that and shipping that to the end user, providing you, of course, as an IT person with all the tracking information to manage your workload. So, and I'm gonna skip this. It's, I mean, you've seen the same concept. Um, to expand beyond the Lifecycle Hub, with our custom managed services, thinking about, what else can Dell do also from management perspective. You know, we have customers who are interested in an asset management, looking for Dell to actually provide an asset management solution, whether it's a software asset management or hardware asset management. And we're able to provide services around that ecosystem. It could be for maybe like a walk-up desk, for service desk, or remote desk, taking the L1 and L2 calls, whatever that is. All these managed services. We've been doing this again. I've joined Dell 27 years ago, and we've been doing this from the time before I actually even have started, honestly, there. This is just a comparison between, what normally is in the factory. So, I spoke briefly about some of the services that we do in the factory, or sometimes, if we're not able to complete a specific service in Dell factory, whether for security purposes or whatever that is, we complete it in a configuration center. We call it second touch, because second time we touch that system, and that would include the imaging, the asset tagging, the BIOS, and all that, right? But that is a Dell specific solution for Dell hardware, right? So everything that we have here with these services is tailored for Dell. Versus with the Lifecycle Hub, it does support any other vendors as well. So you're not limited just to Dell. So if you have some of the users who actually need MacBooks and so forth, you're able to follow the same process. You have one solution that is going to solution solve for all the other vendors as well. So, and again, that would include, whether it's the configuration services that we're able to complete, the imaging, the BIOS, the kitten, and all that. We've had situations where a customer may actually have a need to quarantine a device or legal hold and so forth, where we're able to accommodate for all these use case scenarios. So all in all, with the Lifecycle Hub, it is a warehousing and advanced warehousing and inventory management solution. It manages your day in, day out environment, essentially. We're able to complete all the configuration services in there. It covers for both deployment and redeployment for repurposing devices. It does account for repairs, and asset recovery services as needed. And a customer can choose whether, if you want to leverage our Dell pre-negotiated shipping rates, you can absolutely do that. But if you have your own rate that you'd rather use that, we can solution for that as well. And my last slide, basically, I've mentioned, these devices can actually be shipped, configured with all the new hire, with whether your own items that you would like to include into there. It's optimized for whether for the initial deployment or managing the returns, which is a nightmare for many customers, not able to collect some of these devices for people who are retiring or leaving the company or changing roles and so forth. So we're managing that whole experience on your behalf. It covers the unit exchange, the refresh, and as that device reaches the end of life, the disposition of that device. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. If there are any specific questions, I'll definitely take it in the chat. Thank you.